All right, today we're talking about a truly pivotal 30-year period. I mean, this is a moment in history that absolutely changed the world. We're going to look at the four leaders who, in just 3 short decades, laid the foundation for a global civilization.
So just try to picture it. The prophet has passed away in 632 AD. This charismatic leader who united all these warring tribes, he's gone. And the community he built, well, it's facing its biggest question ever. Who's going to lead now? Seriously, the answer to this single question would set the course for the next 1,000 years.
And the answer? It came in the form of the Rashidun Caliphs. Now that term, Rashidun, it literally means the rightly guided successors. And you gotta understand, these weren't kings or emperors like you might think. Nope. They were companions of the prophet, and they were chosen to guide the community based on the principles he had already set out.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start right after the prophet's death, then we'll walk through each of the 4 key figures: Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. And then we'll wrap it all up by looking at the legacy they left behind. So first up, we have Abu Bakr. This is the man who had to step into leadership at what was, maybe the most fragile moment in the community's entire history. His job, his one mission, was simple and huge at the same time. Just hold it all together.
He was known as al-Siddiq, which means the truthful. But here's what's really interesting about that title. It wasn't just about being honest. It was a testament to his unwavering, immediate belief. For instance, when the prophet spoke of his miraculous night journey, some people hesitated. Not Abu Bakr. He believed instantly. That's where the title comes from.
And his connection to the faith? It was about as deep as it gets. He was the very first man to embrace Islam after the prophet's wife Khadijah. And he was known by everyone as the prophet's closest companion and friend. He was there for all of it, the struggles and the triumphs, right from day one.
Now, his reign was short, just 2 years, but don't let that fool you. The impact was immense. Right away, he had to deal with the Ridda Wars. These were basically campaigns against tribes that tried to break away after the prophet died. He managed to bring them all back into the fold, unifying the entire Arabian Peninsula. And maybe the most critical thing he did? He ordered the first compilation of the Quran, making sure that the sacred text would be preserved for all time.
All right, next up is Umar. And if Abu Bakr was the unifier, then Umar was definitely the architect. He was the one who was going to build the entire administrative structure for this new, rapidly growing state.
His title was Al-Faruq, which translates to the Criterion. And that really tells you everything you need to know about him. It speaks to his reputation for being able to just see clearly, to distinguish between what was right and what was wrong. And that sense of justice, it defined his entire leadership.
But even before he became a leader, his conversion to Islam was a total game changer. Think about it. Umar was this powerful, respected, even feared figure in Mecca. So when he joined the faith, it gave the early Muslims who were often persecuted this incredible boost of strength and confidence. It was an absolutely pivotal moment.
And just look at this. This timeline really shows you the incredible scale of what happened under his rule. We're talking about a 10-year period. In just a decade, the state expanded at a mind-boggling rate. They brought in the Levant, Egypt, and even started the conquest of the massive Persian Empire. Just wow.
Okay, but the big question is, how do you actually govern a territory that vast and diverse? Well, this is where you see Umar's genius. He built the machinery of the state. He created these things called diwans, which were basically government departments. They managed everything from the army to the treasury. He created a system that could run an actual empire, a blueprint that leaders would use for centuries.
So we've had the unifier and the architect. Now we turn to the standardizer, Uthman. With him, the focus shifts a little bit, less about external expansion and more about internal cohesion, making sure everyone was on the same page, religiously speaking, and that was a task of monumental importance.
Now, just like the others, Uthman was one of the earliest converts to Islam. He was known for being one of the foremost and was incredibly well respected for his piety, his modesty, and his immense generosity. Just a deeply respected figure from the get-go. When you think about his most enduring legacy, it really comes down to this one number, 1. So, what does that 1 actually represent?
It represents one single, official, standardized version of the Quran. See, as the empire grew, people in different regions with different dialects started reciting the Quran in slightly different ways. It was causing confusion. So Uthman took a huge, decisive step. He created a single, definitive version, what's known as the Uthmanic Mus'haf, and sent copies to all the major centers of the empire. This single act preserved the authenticity of the text, ensuring that a Muslim in Spain and a Muslim in China would be reading the exact same words. That's a legacy that lasts to this very day.
And that brings us to our final pillar, Ali, the fourth and last of the Rashidun Caliphs. His time as leader wouldn't be defined by expansion, but by something much, much harder, navigating the first major internal challenges the community had ever seen. You see, his connection to the Prophet was incredibly personal, more so than anyone else. He was his cousin, he married his daughter Fatima, and he literally grew up inside the Prophet's own household. He was also the very first youth to embrace Islam. His loyalty started right from childhood. He was famous for his bravery. They called him Asadullah, the Lion of God, and for his deep knowledge and sense of justice. But his biggest test as caliph wasn't on the battlefield against an outside enemy. It was navigating these deep internal divisions. He even moved the capital from Medina to Kufa, in what's now Iraq, to be more central. But his real focus had to be on trying to hold the community together. And this is the really tough part. His era was marked by immense trials. It saw the state's first major internal conflicts, the first civil wars. These are known as fitnas, a word that means a time of great strife and discord. We're talking about the Battle of the Camel, the Battle of Siffin. These were incredibly difficult times. And through that whole storm, he's remembered for fighting to maintain justice and lead with integrity. So, okay, let's step back for a second and look at the big picture. When you put these four leaders together, what do you see? You see a jaw-dropping 30-year transformation. A small, fledgling community becomes a genuine world power. It's breathtaking. And this table just lays it all out so clearly. You have Abu Bakr, the truthful, who brought unification right when it was needed most. Then Umar, the criterion, who built the administration to run a global state. After him, Uthman, who provided that crucial religious standardization with the Quran. And finally, Ali, the brave, who gave the community resilience during its first great internal test. You know, it's like each one was exactly the right leader for the unique challenge of their era. And that really leaves us with one final big question. In just 30 years, 3 decades, these four leaders transformed a small community into a global power. The scale of that change is something few periods in history can even touch. Their decisions about how to govern, about law, about faith, they created a foundation that's lasted for more than 1,400 years. So the question we're left with is this: how does that incredible legacy of leadership continue to shape our world even today?